Representative Jimmy Dixon. Jimmy is probably the pork industry's best friend in the North Carolina House of Representatives by far. Jimmy has represented North Carolina House District 4 since his first being elected in 2010. He's a lifelong resident of Duplin County. One of our only state representatives is actually a farmer. He's raised hogs. He's raised turkeys and vegetables on his farm. And he's very, very influential. Jimmy chairs our House Ag Committee, the House Ag Appropriations, the Environmental Review. And he's really a friend. And because we're right here in his backyard, we were very fortunate to have him with us today to just share a few words. And we appreciate you being willing to do so. Representative Dixon.
Not much pressure being before lunch, I guess. I need one more hand. It's a delightful experience for me to be here with you, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate the invitation to come and say a few words to you this morning. I understand after having been a farmer all my life, but being actively involved for 41 years in livestock production, that simply means that I beat Moses. He was only in the wilderness 40 years, and I grew heavy tom turkeys and other kinds of animals for 41 years. So I brag about beating Moses occasionally. The first thing that you need to know about me in any type of discussions like this is what I just told you. I'm a lifelong farmer, but I'm a person of faith. I believe that this magnificent earth was created. I don't believe the evolutionary theory as it is completely presented. I believe I have a creator, and I prefer to refer to him as my heavenly Father. So I'm cognizant of your time, and I hope that lunch will be here shortly. But I hope that the few words that I do say are going to be something that you can remember and will be worthwhile for your attendance here. There's a quote by a wise man that said, "What from your father's heritage is lent, earn anew to truly possess." We're talking about an industry that has made magnificent improvements over the years. We're talking about the agriculture industry at large. And ladies and gentlemen, we owe a great debt of gratitude to our forebearers who did things in ways that we can't comprehend the amount of energy and effort and labor that it took them to carve out of this land the agriculture that we enjoy today. So I want to say just a word or two about our heritage and where we stand with that. We're the beneficiaries of their great efforts. This center that we're in here was built by a large contribution in part from the Maxwell family. Long-standing agriculture people who fed turkeys by hand on open range. And so we now have the opportunity to enjoy, because of some of their contributions, this great facility here. I'd like to make reference briefly to something that Abraham Lincoln said in 1859 at the Wisconsin State Agriculture Society. Google that talk. It is a long talk, but there's some pearls of great price in there, and I would share one of two with you. As he opened his talk, he asked this question or made this statement that he didn't see why politicians, and you probably need to know the definition of politics. Very few of you in here probably know the real definition of politics. You know, the definition of it is in the word itself, poly, which means many, ticks, blood-sucking parasites. except for people like me and Senator Jackson and Representative John Bell. But Lincoln said he didn't know why a politician paid so much attention to farmers, except that farmers cast the most votes. Well, that doesn't happen anymore, does it? And so then he went on to say this, and I want to quote it. But farmers, being the most numerous class, it follows that their interest is the largest interest. It also follows that that interest is most worthy of all to be cherished and cultivated. That if there be inevitable conflict between that interest and any other, that other should yield. That was great wisdom in 1859. Understand what Lincoln was saying and why he said it. The most important energy produced is food. Very little can happen in the absence of food. And very little can happen relative to food if a farmer can't control his water. If we as agriculturalists cannot use our water uninhibited, then the entire system of food production is in jeopardy. And so Lincoln observed then that if there's a conflict between any interest and the interest of the farmer, that other interest should yield. This leads to further reflection, he said, that no other human occupation opens so wide a field for the profitable and agreeable combination of labor with cultivated thought as does agriculture. We're certainly seeing now in the whole variety of agriculture practices, technology unbelievable a few years ago. And so the sometimes common idea that the farming community is ignorant, or that the farming community doesn't realize what century we're in, or that the farming community uses technologies and techniques that are not the best. We're sophisticated people. Most of us have indoor plumbing. Most of us have electricity in our homes now. Some of us have vehicles that harvest corn that turn itself around, calculates the yield. And while it's calculating the yield while you're picking the corn, it establishes your fertilizer rate for the following year. So farming is not as simple as it used to be. Every blade of grass is a study, and this is the pearl of great price in this whole thing. This is what I think this whole forum is about. Every blade of grass, he said, is a study, and to produce two where there was but one is both a profit and a pleasure. Therein lies the great wisdom that he had back in 1859. And that's what we're involved in. We're trying to produce two where there was but one, whether it's 2 pounds where there was one, 2 additional watermelons where there was but one, 2 more piglets that survive. So it's both a profit and a pleasure, he said, to do that. In conclusion, remember this when we're at forums like this. He who asks a question is a fool for 5 minutes. He who does not ask a question remains a fool forever. These are opportunities to educate ourselves. I like the old saying that a man who waits for roast duck to fly into mouth must wait a very, very long time. I like this one that my grandmother used. Talk, don't cook the sausage. Thomas and Edison said that in the absence of work, nothing happens. Granny told me that in the absence of work, the only thing that grew were weeds. Now, really in conclusion, there's a portent of serious issues facing agriculture in the future. It's not weather. It is ignorant people in and out of government that actually think food comes from the grocery store. That is our greatest challenge. We all know that on any one particular issue, we, including other folks, could be classified as uninformed. Being uninformed is not a serious problem, although we want to be as informed as we can be. The great problem today is misinformation. And a person who is misinformed can do a lot more than a person who is uninformed. In many ways, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm bold to say this, in many ways, we've become a wasteful, greedy, unthankful, and sinful society. Our forefathers lived by this slogan, "In God we trust," and they worked hard to make America great. Idleness, laziness, and entitlements have begun to replace work, industry, thrift, and self-reliance. Those are the great enemies of freedom and liberty, because they destroy jobs. Agriculture and farming in eastern North Carolina is poised to lose or improve the greatness of the efforts of our past generations to feed a hungry world. May we now do our part at the forefront of a great eastern North Carolina effort to promote our wonderful agriculture heritage to feed and clothe a hungry world. Talk, don't cook the sausage. Thank you very much.